TD Ryan Unleashed is brought to you by Scott Zyman, your State Farm insurance agent. Scott can help you save money bundling your home and auto insurance. Call 815-748-3101 or stop by at 2587 Sycamore Road, Suite D in DeKalb. Like a good neighbor, Scott Zyman and State Farm are there. Pizza Villa, pizza, pasta, sandwiches, and more at 824 West Lincoln Highway in DeKalb. For delivery or pickup, call 815-758-8116 or go to pizzavilla.com. My Insurance Guys in Sycamore, family owned, local, reliable. My Insurance Guys cover Medicare to auto and everything in between. Call us in Sycamore at 815-899-0950. My Insurance Guy, business, auto, home, life, and health at myinsuranceguy.com. And Eldercare Services of DeKalb County, safe, secure, and supported, helping you stay at home where you want to be. Call 815-758-6550 or stop in at 1701 East Lincoln Highway in DeKalb or on the web at ecsdekalb.org. And welcome in to TD Ryan Unleashed podcast number 22. Honored and privileged to have with us Cliff Golden. Cliff Golden has been a Scoutmaster. Well, we just figured out Cliff went 48 years, not to mention all the years that he was helping out with the scouting before that. Cliff, how you doing this morning?
Pretty good. An
honor to have you here. We also have Peter Vanderbleek, also known as, sorry about that, Pete. Pete would always call in to the radio station at WLBK, and we always appreciate that, Pete. And tell us about that. You're involved with you the one who called me about Cliff, and your son is also a scout.
Yeah, so I have two sons in Troop 33. Henry is a Life Scout. And
now, what does that mean, a Life Scout?
So a Life Scout is the rank previous to just before Eagle Scout. So Cliff always tells the boys that Life Scout might feel like the rank right before Eagle Scout, but you're about halfway there when you do it, because there's an enormous amount of work and commitments between Life Scout and Eagle. And so that's where Henry is right now. He's going to be a sophomore. And Charlie, my older son, just eagled out of the troop last month. And so he's Cliff's most recent Eagle Scout, right, Cliff?
Yeah.
Yes. So, so what got me thinking about contacting you, TD, I've been listening to your podcast. Of course, I've been a longtime listener on the former radio station you used to be on. We're not going to mention any call letters, but
Thank you for that.
Listeners out there might know it. But and I've been listening to podcasts. I thought, well, those are great stories you've been putting out about DeKalb, local people, and Troop 33 celebrating their 100th anniversary, and I think Troop 4 as well this year, right, Cliff, locally?
Yes.
Was a big deal. And Cliff's longevity with the troop, I'm thinking back that, and I'm doing the math, and 48 years over 100 is really close to half the years that Troop 33's been around. Cliff's been at the helm. So
wow.
I thought that was pretty newsworthy. So I reached out. Thanks for having him in. I'm only here as a mediator, so just to get Cliff talking here. So.
All right, we want to talk about your son, too, because, again, it's such an impressive young man talking to him. But also, the mayor of the DeKalb, Cohen Barnes, wanted to be here, but he was unable to do so. But he said, I was an adult leader for years in Troop 33. My son was their 100th Eagle Scout, if I remember correctly. He says, I absolutely love Cliff. And he goes on to say that I think Cliff Golden is one of the most amazing human beings I've ever met on the planet. So that comes from Mayor Cohen Barnes. Who tell us what it was like working with Cohen during that time.
It was great. I actually...
You have to say something nice now, because he was nice to you.
Oh, yeah. No, it actually goes back a ways. I remember Cohen as a scout.
Is that right?
And he was in Troop 4, and his father was Scoutmaster. So Scoutmasters kind of know the sons of their scouts.
Okay.
So I got to see Cohen early on, and I was impressed with him as a youth. And then I was real excited when he came back and brought his son to Troop 33. And I remember Cohen was a scout, excited. He is an Eagle Scout. His father is an Eagle Scout. His son is an Eagle Scout.
Wow.
3 generations of Eagle.
How neat is that? Well, I kind of want to go through your scouting history if I can, but I wanted to show you guys, because unfortunately we're not on television, but they have the pictures of Cliff through the years. And I pointed out to the people that you look like. I thought in the 1970 you looked just like John Hamm from Mad Men. You look like Mike Stivic from All in the Family in the 70s there. You look like Johnny Bench in 82 when Johnny was balding a little bit. You look like Fidel Castro in 1987. I know what's going on there. And now you're just like a big teddy bear there too. But you've changed your look through the years, haven't you?
Yeah.
Just to keep with the style, right, Cliff?
Yeah.
What's the intentional?
So TD, were those on the Facebook page? So if the listeners want to go and take a look at those were those on the Troop 33?
Troop 33, what an, who would put that together? Amazing.
This is this man right
You
here.
put the weather this website? Oh my gosh, because the information is just amazing.
He is one of the Cohen had mentioned he's amazing people, and he wasn't. I know he gave more specifics, but I wanted to say that Cliff, among many of his areas of strength is keeping track of, cataloging, and archiving all of the accomplishments of the troop and of the boys. And I think that's one of Cliff's greatest achievements. He's in the background, and he's making sure that all of this is recorded and for posterity. And it's an amazing achievement. On a weekly basis, we get the most complete email from Cliff that tells us here's what's going on, and he always has a recollection of something that happened in the past. And it's an amazing. He's got a memory like a steel trap. That's for sure.
That reminds me of the late great Ken Mundy, the former mayor of Sycamore. He took extensive notes about what was going on with city council and stuff, and people are very grateful for that. So Cliff, I can't believe that. So let's dive in here. I'm looking from your stuff that you did. Let's go back to Cliff Gordon joining Troop 33 as a scout in April of 1965. So what happened, Cliff? What made you want to join the Scouts in 1965?
Well, my brother was in Scouts, and so several of the kids in the neighborhood were in Troop 33. And I was at Hayes School. They had just started the troop there, but I wanted to go to the troop where everybody was that I knew.
Okay.
And the scoutmaster there was Harold Snow, and someone that he was scoutmaster for the entire time I was a scout, and looked up to him. He was like almost a second father. And I really didn't go anywhere out of DeKalb except to visit relatives.
Okay.
You know, that my father owned a business. Didn't have a lot of time to go out and do those.
What did your dad do? What was he?
Oh, he ran a service station.
Okay.
He had a snow coat station down by the high school, the old high school.
Were you a gas jockey yourself out there pumping the gas, checking the oil?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was doing. So,
Yes.
for part of it, you know.
Okay.
And then one of the service stations that he also had was out by on Sycamore Road, across from Hopkins Park, in that neighborhood somewhere.
Yeah, first of all, it was Golden Brothers Golf. It was a golf station.
Okay.
And that was where McAllister's is now.
Oh, all right.
So then they wanted the big company wanted them to extend their hours longer and stay open longer. They weren't really interested in it. And my other two uncles said, "We don't want to be a part of that." My dad said, "I don't want to be part of that either. I'll just get a smaller station and just run it by myself."
All right, very good.
Yeah.
All right, what is the motto of Troop 33? Let me ask this guy, because I know you know it. Pete, what is it?
Always an adventure.
Always an adventure. I'm sure
And
it
you
is.
could say that with a straight face when you're on an adventure, about to go on an adventure, but you can also say it with a little bit of a smile when things don't go well, which is what life is about, right? When the kids forget to pack all the tents
Right.
on a trip, you look at each other and you say, always an adventure.
We call that a learning lesson, right? A learning lesson.
Exactly right.
So, Cliff, then you were a scoutmaster, serving as a scoutmaster of the Boy Scouts Troop 33 in November of 1976. Well, while you were in college, you were an assistant scoutmaster. Tell us about that. How did you find time to do that?
Well, it's not as hard to be an assistant scoutmaster because I love doing things and with the scouts, and then you can kind of pick and choose. Whatever fits my schedule, I'll help out. If I'm busy, I won't.
Okay.
And then when you become scoutmaster, you don't really have too many options. You're kind of in there for the whole thing.
I want to talk about all the stuff you and the Scouts have been to 49 states in the U.S. plus 19 foreign nations in North America, Europe, and Central America. Before I ask you about all the cool things you've done, Pete, tell us about your son Charlie and what it's been like. Because Cliff's been doing it for so long, and look at the great people he's still turning out.
Yeah, so, Charlie just was awarded the Eagle Award, which is the highest award in scouting. I think, Cliff, do you have a number on how many Eagles you've been able to be a part of over the years?
I think of the board of review, they were talking about how many Eagles, and I said, I think Charlie's number is 70. Then I looked it up, and it's either number 89 or number 90.
That's
just
amazing.
While Cliff has
Just
been
you,
there, and it's
yeah.
been over 100 some for Troop 33 over the years.
We're either 114 or 115.
And Cliff, tell us about the projects. Now, for folks that don't know, and you say it's your biggest secret, that all Eagle Scouts, they do a project for the community. And I was just talking to Charlie about the community, the project he's doing over at the cemetery by the Jewel over there, or by Michael's over there. But tell us about that. Do they pick the project, or do you give them an idea of some projects to do, or how do they decide that?
It's up to each Eagle Scout what he's going to do, and that's probably one of the hardest parts of it.
I bet.
Just finding what they want to do. And then they look at what it is. It has to be approved by the beneficiary. Then I have to approve it, and then our committee chairman approves it, and then the district advancement coordinator approves it, and then he can go do it.
Okay.
And it has to benefit the community, so it can't be like, TD, don't get any ideas, you're gonna get your whole landscape.
You stole my
It has to
thunder.
benefit the community, so for Charlie's project, he was in scouting, active in scouting from the time he was in, Cub Scouts all the way through. And as you're moving through, it ebbs and flows. Kids get busy in high school, so there might be a high schooler you don't see them for a year because they happen to have band practice on Monday night when the meetings are going on. Then they're come back, oh, there he is again, he's back. And it's sort of like Cliff said, picking and choosing, your priorities. And
So you can stay in the troop. Can you take a little time off and get back in the troop? Is that how that works?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
I like to see kids involved in a lot of things.
Right.
So there our most recent Eagles, we've had 4 or 5 of them last year.
Okay.
And some are in robotics, some are in different sports, some are in band. They're in all kinds of different things. And they usually, we keep a busy schedule, so a busy calendar of events. So whenever they have some time free, they can always do something. There's always something there for them.
Sounds like my mother. There's always something to do. There's always
sometimes, and I didn't know that until we got involved with Boy Scouts, because I wasn't a Boy Scout myself, my older brothers all were, but was that sometimes, and when he says an active troop, you can't believe the schedule. If you go on their Facebook page and you look at some of the things, sometimes Cliff and the boys have 4, 5, 6 things scheduled in a week. And sometimes it'll be 2 things in a week. But and some of those younger boys can make it to all of the events, and some of the older boys are come to 1 or 2. And
Okay.
it's kind of a nice mix. Oh, there's so-and-so. We haven't seen him in a while, but it just landed on a day he didn't have a football game or music practice or whatever. But that brings up another thing is like the events, Cliff, one of his other strengths is letting the boys run the troop. So Cliff finds things, people find Cliff and say, we want the boys to be involved in this flag ceremony or whatever. And Cliff brings it to the boys. But once a year, Cliff has the boys have a meeting, and they sit down with a laptop and a screen, and Cliff says, here's all the things we've done in the past, and let's get a calendar together, and he lets the boys pick. I mean, it's kind of cool. Last year, the boys said, we want to go to Tennessee. And Cliff says, okay. Now, Cliff's getting, you mentioned how he's changed over the years. Cliff's getting to the point where he doesn't go on all the events, but
Right.
he has other adult leaders in the troop like myself, and there's been another group of great moms and dads throughout the years who were able to go to the Boundary Waters. And I know Cohen's been to the Boundary Waters and that sort of thing. So Cliff's done a really good job delegating, but mostly delegating the decisions to the boys, which is very hard as a parent and as an adult, as you know, to let kids decide things because they make what we perceive as more mistakes than they might
Right.
make. But it goes back to always an adventure, right, Cliff?
Right, yeah.
always an adventure.
And that's how they learn. If there's something that doesn't work, they've learned the lesson.
Yeah.
But usually they do pretty good. We've had some, I got a bike trip and they were repaving the road. That was a surprise. We had no idea.
Oh, wow.
And I looked at it and I said, well, we could go, to the left here and do this. The other adult said, well, we could go to the right. We were in our support vehicle ahead. The boys were coming up, and I said, well, let's ask our senior patrol leader, which happened to be his son, what he thinks. Because each of us think he's going to choose our way.
Right.
And he looks at it and he said, well, I think the best thing would be if we backtrack over here, we can come over this road, we can come up there, we have the wind behind us. And we're both looking at each other like, okay, now we
That
know
works.
who's the smartest.
Well, let's talk about some of the stuff you've done. Cliff's taken the scouts to major cities, backpacking, bicycling, caving, dog sledding, hiking, horsebacking, ice boating, jamborees, mountain biking, rafting, sailing, snorkeling, snowshoeing, snowmobiling. But let's talk about some big. It says here you and the scouts climbed the Mayan pyramids. Did you actually do that?
Yeah,
Tell us about
yeah.
that. Oh my gosh.
That was, we were doing a tour, that was 1999. We wanted to finish out the year big. And what do you guys want to do?
Oh, go climb a pyramid.
Yeah, so we came up with 5 high adventure trips that year. And the last one was touring the Yucatan in Mexico.
Wow.
So, and it was based on a few things. We went to beaches, Cancun, Acumal, Tulum, Playa del Carmen. We were snorkeling coral reefs off the island of Cozumel. And then we were seeing Mayan sites. Tulum also has a Mayan site overlooking the beach. So we saw that. And then Chichen Itza and Uxmal.
Wow.
And Chichen Itza
Wow.
has the most famous pyramid that people climb up.
Now, the Mayan pyramid, you were allowed to climb that, because I know some pyramids you're not allowed to, but that was all right. And then did all the scouts go up, or how did that go?
Yeah, everybody went up. I think that pyramid has been closed.
Okay.
But I think it might be open again. But I know we went up, and going up is not bad. Coming down is the hard part.
Now, we probably not a lot of cell phones around then. Were you the photographer? Did you capture all this stuff? Because as Pete said, you did such a great job with the archives of the history of the Troop 33.
Yeah, as best I could. And that was before digital
Yeah.
photography. So, and the old things I always did in slide format. So I have to convert some of those slides back to regular photographs. But yeah, we went up there, and one of the boys brought a giant slinky. There's a movie related to that. He asked me.
Did it work? Did he get it going down in the pyramid?
It didn't work, thankfully. I told him if we get dark clouds rolling in, you got to grab that slinky.
Now, this one, I want to make sure I'm reading this rightly. Right. Bike down volcanoes. Now, that doesn't sound like a great idea. What are you biking down volcanoes?
Yeah, that was Mount Haleakala
Okay.
in Hawaii on Maui. So we're right at the rim, and you go from the rim down to the ocean. And you're traveling 2 miles straight down in elevation, and you're looking out, and what you see are clouds. You're above the clouds. When you get to the bottom, you want to look up at the mountain, and you just see clouds. And in between, you had to bike through the clouds.
Wow.
And we've done that a couple times.
Now, were all the scouts on board for that when you told them what you're going to be doing? You're going to be riding down a volcano. I might have been sick that day.
Yeah, we divided into 2 groups because we had some moms on the trips, and they said, no, my son's not doing that.
Oh, okay.
So they went about halfway down the volcano, and they kind of went where vegetation started, and the rest of it was all, we're up there and it's volcanic ash.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. It gets even more amazing. You snorkeled the coral reefs. You're talking about that now. Were there any sharks? Of course, I immediately think of sharks or barracudas or anything like that.
We've only seen a shark once, and it was right at the end. And the boys said, "Boy, it's a good thing the shark came at the end and not the beginning." And I had to point out to them, if it came at the beginning, that would have been the end.
And that's the sort of thing that a group of Boy Scouts love to hear. A group of adults would have shaken them, But
Yeah.
the boys probably thought, well, there's something, we dodged a bullet, and they laughed it off. But the adults probably wouldn't have gone on the next trip either.
I love it. And then horseback riding? Now, where'd you guys go horseback riding?
We've been horseback riding a few places. We do it locally.
Oh, good. Okay.
There's a place down by, boy, I can't think of the name of it offhand. There's another one out White Pines in Oregon. And we've been down Giant City State Park down in southern Illinois in the Shawnee National Forest. And then Bryce Canyon out in Utah. That's
Now, how do you deal
exciting ride.
with the kids being afraid of horses? I was afraid of a horse. So I didn't want to get on the horse. I didn't want to ride the horse.
It's always, there's always a first time for everything. And a lot of boys experience the first time doing something. And if they don't want to go on a horse, they don't have to. It's up to them whether they sign up or not. And then our biggest horseback trips have been out at Philmont Scout Ranch. There's a cavalcade program, and you're in the saddle for 8 days.
Oh, my.
We've done that 4 times.
I have a little hemorrhoid issue that hurts just even thinking
Yeah.
about that.
So they have, and it's fun for it's fun for the whole thing, but the first few days, it's really exciting, then pretty soon you discover that it's actually work. You know, we get up, we don't eat, we go and we halter the horse, and we feed the horse, and we groom the horse,
Okay.
and we bridle the horse, we put up on the saddle, we get.
Oh,
all
so you're
that
not just
stuff
getting
done.
down there, you're taking care of the horse.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, yeah, we gotta do all that, and then we get to have breakfast. So the
Okay.
horses eat before we do in the morning.
As it should be.
Yeah,
Now, you paddle rivers too. That's something I've never done. I've always wanted to do that. What rivers were you able to paddle down or up?
just all over the place. We've paddled, a whole list of rivers and.
Well, give us an idea of one. So, what do you get? Like 6 or 8 or 10 scouts together? We're gonna go.
So can I interject here?
Please.
I'm glad that you talked about paddling. And by the way, Cliff does not like the water. So this is another labor of love for Cliff over the years. He does not like to swim. He can swim. He if there's swimming, a choice between swimming and walking hot coals, I think the hot coals would win over, right, Cliff? So this is a labor of love. But a couple of years ago, I ran into somebody in a local establishment, and we were talking. He found out my boys are in Troop 33. He says, I was in Troop 33, and let me tell you about what a tough guy Cliff was. And I said, and he said was, so no offense, Cliff. He's still pretty tough, but anyway, he said we went on a trip where we paddled up the Kishwaukee River to Rockford, and then we got in the Rock River, and we paddled down the Rock River down to the Mississippi River.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, no, and it doesn't even end there. And then we got in the Mississippi River. Now, how many days trip was this, Cliff?
It'd be 8 days, and we basically, we biked from, or we paddled from Hopkins Park to the Quad Cities.
Oh my gosh.
So we're on.
So that's upriver,
Yeah,
right?
so we're in Iowa. We paddled up to Davenport, Iowa. About 200 miles of paddling.
Wow.
And then, and we did it a second time, but this time the boys wanted to do, but we couldn't go to Philmont because of they were too young by just a couple days.
Okay.
It really upset me. So I still went to Philmont with those guys. And I said, what do you guys want to do? And they said, they didn't know. And they finally decided to do a triathlon, an Ironman triathlon.
Oh, sure.
Like Hawaii, except our version. So it was repeating that 200-mile canoe trip. And then we come back for a day, and then we return the next day. So we just have one night in bed, and then we return with bicycles. We put the rear seat the rear tire of the bike right where the canoe came out,
Okay.
and then we bounced the front tire against the Gateway Arch in St. Louis.
Is that right?
So they traveled 525 miles, just human powered, from DeKalb to St. Louis, and they were going to do a 10K run as a running part, and then they decided they would change it to a BK run, which I wasn't sure I wanted to do. I had no idea what it was, and it turned out to be. They said we'll tell you when we get ready to do it, and it was 2 laps around the Burger King.
So, and just to reiterate, so Cliff went to Philmont, which is scouting mecca, and it's a grueling thousands of feet up and camping and all of this stuff. He went with those boys, but for the younger boys who weren't old enough technically to go to Philmont, so how old were these boys that went on the 500-mile canoe biking?
One was just a few days short, one was maybe a week or so, and then one was maybe a month or so.
So were
Of what
they
age?
15? Were they 15? How
Back then, I think they had to be 14 to go.
Wow.
so these kids were 11, 12, and 13 doing
Well, no,
the trip.
they were almost 14.
Oh, they were almost
They were
14.
just-
So there were 13,
Okay.
Yeah.
13-year-olds. He did this trip with them, and so then I was reflecting as a parent again, like with no cell phones and all
Right.
of this. So Cliff is going up there, and they were camping in the middle of all of this, of going to
Right,
the
yeah.
Quad Cities and
Yeah.
all of this on islands in the Mississippi and things. And the parents are just in the dark on where the kids were and their welfare and things. So, but I'm sure the kids had a blast being in charge of their own destiny, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the the 1 year, the parents were all parked in Davenport where our endpoint was. And we have to wait for the barges to go by. As soon as the barge goes by, we can do it.
Okay.
Because we have to have time. And I tell them, don't paddle towards your parents. Paddle straight ahead because the current's going to move us down.
Yeah.
And the parents are there and they're flashing their lights, honking their horns. And it was
Oh, what a moment that
yeah,
must
it's
have
like
been.
the
Boy.
end of a movie or something.
And the channel of the Mississippi River is nothing to sneeze at. It's some of the most rigorous undercurrent and current overcurrent that you can have. So that's a grueling task. Even though the rivers can be quite narrow along there, but it's a task to get yourself across.
I think
alone.
where we crossed, it was about a mile wide.
Now, Cliff, when we talk about, many of us are guilty of watching a show called Naked and Afraid, where they're put out in the forest and with nothing, and you have to survive. Well, are you teaching the kids could they literally survive in the woods once you're done teaching them all the stuff you're going to teach them?
I don't know. They helped me survive.
Oh, yeah. But you still teach all the practical stuff. I always joke about, you eat squirrels while you're going to be out in the jamboree, but I mean, do you teach them, if the push came to shove, that they'd be able to survive?
They have a wilderness survival merit badge.
Okay, that's what I'm getting
So
at.
kids can get to that. We went to summer camp and we had 2 of our scouts on staff there, which makes it more fun for the kids.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of the boys that have been going there multiple years have gotten to know a lot of the staff. So they're looking forward to the staff people. And all the different staff members teach different things. So one of our scouts was in charge of scoutcraft, and the other one was in charge of nature. So, and those are good areas.
Yeah.
To do that.
Well, I was so impressed by the Scout projects, but then more impressive is the work you guys done with disaster relief projects. There's a history of you in here, Cliff. Well, you know that, but all the newspaper articles about you guys doing and going to various places. But tell us about the disaster relief efforts that you guys have made through the years.
I think the first one was probably Hurricane Andrew, and we didn't go anywhere except Sycamore.
Okay.
They were collecting things, and we were helping to sort. And that was, I think, 1992. And then 93, they had a big flood on the Mississippi River. We were down there filling sandbags.
Now, was it, again, the kids decided, or how did you decide that you're going to go and help out that way?
I asked, what do you think? Do you think we should go down there and do something? And the kids are yeah, let's go do that.
That's great.
And we were down there, and the deal was, let's work one day filling sandbags, and you can spend the other day sightseeing in Springfield and
Sure.
see all that stuff. And then they voted, no, let's.
Keep working.
They did the first day, and they said, let's stay. We want to do this tomorrow too.
Wow.
So
You must see that a lot, Cliff, where kids just surprise you when they come up and step up like that, and
yeah,
without any prodding or anything, they
Yeah.
decided on their own.
I've been doing it for 48 years, and I was assistant scoutmaster before that, so 53 years. I never stopped being amazed by the kids and what they can do. If you step back and give them the opportunity, they do more than you would ever expect.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, there was a place we were at Hurricane Matthew in 2016, and we've been to, I think, 5 hurricanes. Hurricane Katrina was a big one, but Hurricane Matthew, we were gutting houses. I knew.
Oh,
in
that was
advance
okay.
We would be gutting houses, but I didn't know we would be gutting the crawl spaces. That's like the worst.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So I reminded the kids how much fun it was exploring caves at Macocata Cave.
That's good. Yeah, tie it in with the caves. I like
Yeah,
that.
so they were all excited, and they had disposable decontamination suits and everything. They were all excited, putting all this stuff on, and then they would have like contests to see which side of the house could get the biggest mountain of insulation. We had to remove all
Wow.
the insulation and stuff.
And how about the feedback from the people that you were helping, for the kids? I mean, that must have been something for them to realize what an impact they had on people's
Yeah,
lives.
for that project, they would give us a Bible, and we would present a Bible to the family.
Oh, wow.
And I remember one place we were at, and this guy was telling me his life story. It was like it could have been a country music song.
It was raining the day I got out of prison.
Yeah.
My mom picked me up in the pickup truck.
And then they gave him the Bible, and the guy just melted.
Wow.
And was a totally different person. But when we were doing that, There were groups of men doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And they're all, we gotta do this. Somebody's gotta do it. We'll go out and do it. They were, not happy. We could do 2 houses in the time that they did 1 house.
Really?
Yeah, so the people there were amazed by, in fact, the first time we came back, we said, yeah, we're done. And they said, no, you're not. No, you're not. Well, let's go back and we'll show you what you need to do. Then they came back and were shocked because we were done. They couldn't believe the boys could work that fast.
Another thing about the boys is, when you have these disasters, and I've not been on any of the disaster relief trips, but when you have these disasters, part of the problem is the people there don't have anywhere to stay. They don't have anywhere to go. So when the boys go, if adults go, we need a bed. And when the boys go, they've slept on gymnasium floors, church floors without complaining. They're like, not a problem, and they work, like Cliff says, they make these big piles, and then the boys are tired. They'll sleep anywhere. They'll work for food, the old sign, work for food.
I love it.
The boys, I went to a scout event with my son and it was a Klondike Derby in Cub Scouts. And it was very, very cold. And you brought a can of soup, condensed soup, that was part of your entrance, and then they dumped all these soups in a big, ugly pot.
Okay.
Put these things up. And I'll never forget it. At lunch, it was really cold out, and they served you this cup of soup of random soups mixed together. And my son was real little. He looks at me and says, Dad, we need this kind of soup at home. I said, okay, why doesn't Mom buy this kind? I'm like, it's just random soups. It was not very good, but just to exemplify how the boys are grateful. They'll sleep anywhere. They'll eat it. They'll eat. They're not too picky about eating, and so that makes them a really good candidate for going places like that.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite quotes, I thought it was from the Bible, is I felt sorry for myself because I had no shoes, and then I met a man who had no feet. And it turns out Helen Keller actually said that, that one always stuck with me because it must be so life-changing for these kids to realize what these people are dealing with and how good they have it. And it would definitely be life-changing. It could not be that life-changing.
The first time we went down to Hurricane Katrina, we raised $1,250 beforehand and sent down $2,500 because we used a magic grant. And I publicized this. I used to belong to an email group that had a couple thousand people all over the country. And when I said, I wish we could do something else, I was contacted by a group from Orange County, California. And they're going to go down and do a project for homeless military. Because the military were out evacuating communities, saving lives. Mm-hmm. Then they came back to their base. 40% of the housing for military families at the Air Force Base in Biloxi
was wiped out.
was wiped out.
Yeah.
Suddenly they were. So they asked if we could come and cater a dinner because we've done that. And I always tell them, I always put on this thing to tell them about the activities we do. So they knew we could cater a big meal. So we went down there initially to cater the meal for hundreds of people. And it was in an air hangar that housed 2 Hurricane Hunter aircraft. And they moved one of the aircraft out, and that was our grand ballroom.
Wow.
That we did that. So that was, and we fed homeless people at Keesler Air Force Base. And then the CB base in Gulfport, also they had homeless. And then the naval base at Pascagoula also had homeless. So we did it there. And then the base contacted us and said, we have a 4th group that maybe you could include. And it was foster children. Because when families evacuate, if they leave the state, this was in Mississippi, if they leave the state, they can't take the kids.
Is that right?
So abandoned foster children were being cared for by the Salvation Army. So they were part of our group. And we put on the dinner, and the group from Orange County got money from Disney World or Disney Company and all those corporations to buy gifts. So every boy would get a blue backpack full of gifts. Every girl would get a pink backpack full of gifts. And all these things kept working to the benefit. I needed 10 people, and I asked for volunteers. We had 30.
Wow.
So we had to find other projects. But Matthew Boone's in DeKalb, the restaurant, Matthew Boone Lois, they named it after their son, who joined our troop.
Okay.
And he stayed in the food service industry, and he was one of the restaurant managers for the Treasure Bay Casino in Biloxi. And they had 5 restaurants. 4 of them were wiped out. The only one still standing was his. And so I contacted him, and he said, we're serving breakfast and lunch. So after lunch, the kitchen is yours. So we were able to prepare food there. We also had a field kitchen outside the
Okay.
hangar. And then the other 2 projects, we put together, we cooked at this place called God's Katrina Kitchen, hundreds of people every day. And we would rotate the group so they would each get to do each of these things. And they would be up at 4 o'clock in the morning
Wow.
to start breakfast. And then the other was in New Orleans. They had, they wouldn't evacuate the pets. So all these dogs were abandoned because people were evacuating.
Right.
And they had to leave their dogs. So we were working with a group called Arno, Animal Rescue New Orleans, and we were helping to facilitate an area they were going to have volunteers come up from California. They couldn't get volunteers anywhere because everyone was gone. So we were able to come in, put in a crew of boys, and I said, you guys like Legos? Because they had a semi full of components that could be assembled into dog kennels.
Oh, okay.
So they were able to cover a parking lot with dog kennels.
Holy
It was
cow.
just amazing.
Wow. Well, now we're quickly running out of time. I wanted to talk about the history of Troop 33, but I also wanted to mention about your former Scoutmasters. Was it Harold Snow, right?
Yes.
Passed away in 73, and then Warren Scott and Roger Hart, right?
Right.
Tell us about those guys.
Harold was Scoutmaster before I got there. So he dedicated a lot of his time to scouting. When I was 19, he passed away of a heart attack on a camping trip
Oh, gosh.
at Camp Rotary McLean, which is now McLean Forest Reserve. And I had, so I was 19, so I wanted to stay with scouting and the troop
Right.
to recover from that. Warren Scott took over for a couple of years, and he was not young and not in good health either. So they found a younger person, and that was great, except he got a job offer from out of DeKalb.
Oh, okay.
So he had to leave, and that's when they didn't have anyone. They asked me if I'd do it, and I said, I'll keep things going if I find something. I don't want to do this. But then it was at a point where, well, you either say yes or we have to shut the troop down. We've got to register a new Scoutmaster. So I said yes, because we had a boy who was a senior in high school, almost done with his Eagle. I wanted him to have the opportunity to finish it.
Okay.
He was one of 5 brothers. He was the youngest. All 4 brothers had gotten Eagle. He wanted to be the 5th one.
Oh, wow.
So that happened, and then I tend to procrastinate, so I just haven't gotten around to quitting yet.
48 years, Clip Voice will correct you if you say, you're the Troop 33 Scoutmaster, and he always adds on just until they can find somebody.
It's the longest temporary job I've ever.
Longest temporary job ever. Now, I forgot to mention that you worked at the Founders Memorial Library at Northern Illinois University. What was that like? And that's probably why you're such a great archivist. Huh?
I loved working there. I had to quit for medical reasons, so I left earlier than I wanted to. But I supervised students, a lot of students at the circulation desk,
Okay.
and I always thought of them as my other troop. And they're really great kids from all different areas.
And we used the Dewey Decimal System, right? That was still around. Or was it?
That was Library of Congress.
Okay, all
That's
right.
what they use here. Here at the DeKalb Public Library, they use Dewey Decimal, but and they use Library of Congress.
Now, I have to ask you what you guys did at the Vatican, being a little Catholic, good little altar boy myself. What did you guys do at the Vatican?
We spent 2 days there, or they only have the mornings open for visitation and tourism.
Okay,
So we spent 2 mornings and we saw the main worship area, the great Michelangelo sculpture there, and that was before it was protected with all those things.
did you meet the Pope, or did he say mass while you were there?
I guess he didn't have time. I don't know. But we saw that we were in the Sistine Chapel. We were in the museums. We were in the catacombs. So we pretty much saw the whole thing.
How cool is that? Now, again, I want to commend you on the history of Troop 33. I was there. I just couldn't believe how much information was there. And I love how you tie it in with the 20s. What was going on then? Average salary in the 1920s was $1,236, and the cost of a new home, $2,878. And you got the big stars at the time. Boy Scouts was 10 years old at that time. But then, so 1925 is when Troop 33 started, right? And then you told me there was a couple years after the war, right, where you guys took a little time off there.
We started in 1925 in May, and we were Troop 3 at that time. And then Troop 4 started in September of 1925. Troop 2 had preceded us, and they're no longer around. They were at the Methodist Church in Sycamore.
Okay.
So we continued on, and then in 1946, they were still going. 1947, they didn't renew the charter, and they renewed it again in 1951. So we haven't had 100 continuous years. It's 96 out of 100.
Okay. That ain't bad.
Yeah,
I take that in school, that's for sure.
So if you say who's older, Troop 33 or Troop 4, it depends on how you look at it. We started before they did. We were Troop 3, but they have a continuous charter.
Oh, okay.
So they've been doing 100 years, where we've been doing 96 out of 100.
And again, your history is so extensive here. In 1926, John McQueen donated 27 acres of land north of Kirtland, Illinois, for the DeKalb Rotary Club. Given a trust of land is used for the camp for Boy Scouts in DeKalb. And you said, what is that now, Cliff? You said that's
now
it's a park, huh?
Forest Preserve.
Forest Preserve. Okay.
And that was where I went to. That was my first summer camp. And back then in 1965, the cost of summer camp was $15. And this last year, the full regular price was $425.
Wow. Boy.
So a little bit of inflation.
Well, yeah, you could buy a house for $2,000 back then, too. And then you combine with tell us about this. In 1928, the DeKalb City Council merged with the St. Charles area to become the Chief Shabana Council. Is that right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And at that time, they had a Troop 3 that was older than us. So they didn't have duplicate numbers back then. So they got to stay Troop 3, and we had to change. And the boys were all angry. They said, we're not taking the 3 off our shirt. So the leader said, well, here's another 3. You'll be twice the 3 they are. So that's how we became 33.
That's great.
I didn't know
That's
that
awesome.
story. That's cool.
That's a story.
I just interviewed Ethan Storm. He's a young man from Sycamore High School. He signed a baseball contract with the Tampa Bay Rays. And I asked him about his number. His number was important. And he said as long as a 3 was involved. He was 3 in high school. He was 13 in junior college. He's 33 now with the college team he's with. And he's going to be something with a 3 in it. But as long as he gets a 3 in there. That's great. Well, again, I was going to give you a little quiz, but you kind of stepped on it there. The Troop 33 was Troop 3 before the First Lutheran Church in 1925. Scoutmaster, I asked him off the air. Let's see if he remembers now. Do you remember who the Scoutmaster was?
Yes, it was Mr. Osenberg.
Right, Erwin Osenberg.
Yeah.
Very good. And that's when the Chief Shabana, you combined with them in 1928 there. So again, this has just been a thrill. What do you want to add?
Well,
my friend, Pete?
another thing is like, how do the boys afford to go on these trips? Cliff mentioned $425 for
Yeah.
summer camp, and one of the things Cliff has done, and probably why Troop 33 is still around, honestly, is that he's led the food vending for Troop 33 over the last 30 years, mostly. Troop 33, that's how they make their money. So you'll see us at Corn
This
Fest.
is the Corn Fest, right?
We have the best
Lemon
best
shakeouts?
prices at Corn Fest.
Right.
Yep, we have lemonade, we have brats, hot dogs. Our sweet corn is the best, but we don't do it without all of that work of the boys. And the boys are aware when they are working that they divide all the hours and the money out, and the boys get an allotment based on how many hours they work toward their trip. So we got a number of kids trying to save up for Philmont next year. My son's one of them. And
Now,
that's-
where Philmont, what is that?
Philmont's that's like Scout Mecca. It's in New Mexico.
Okay.
It's a big trip. It's probably one of the most expensive things the boys can do, right, Cliff? I mean,
Yeah, there's a few of them up there.
Okay,
yeah. And so they'll go out to the Scout Ranch at Philmont. It's every Scout's achievement to be able to do something like that. They get to maybe go at best maybe every few years a troop can go. And so the boys know they're saving money for that, and they'll be earning with the food booths, and Cliff's been a big leader in that. And another thing is not just making money for the boys to go on trips, but it's a big public awareness of the troop. It's one of the most big PR things. Troop 33, our sign is up. You'll see our 100th anniversary sign donated by one of the Scout families here in town.
do you want to mention that? Who is that?
Banner, the Ryan family.
Oh, how appropriate.
Yeah, no relation.
No
right?
relation.
Yeah.
I should take
But
credit
the
for that.
Ryans have a number of men who went through and eagled out, right, Cliff? So
Right. About four Eagles, and they, the first Scouts joined in 1979, and the last one got Eagle in 2013.
Okay,
so they've been involved in the Scouts for a long time, and so so we have a lot of public supporting us, businesses, local businesses. We get donations for our food booths, and Delano's right here across the street from the library. They allow us to use their parking lot. And Cliff's got a big Rolodex. I don't even know if Rolodex is still around, but I'm sure Cliff still has one. But that's the public appearance of Troop 33 out there in the public. But just to let everybody know, the boys all know what they're earning money for these adventures. So they no Scout in the troop ever has to pull money out of their pocket or from their parents to go on an adventure when Cliff's made stuff like this possible.
That's
for them to earn money, and we thank the public for that as well.
And when they work, the money is put in for like a personal scholarship. It's not like we give money out to people.
right.
It all stays in the troop, and it can be used for activities. And a lot of people look at our calendar and they say, "Oh, I can't join that. That's a millionaire's troop." The majority of our activities are free. We do a lot of free activities, and some of them are out of state. And
Well, again, we can't even get to all the stuff that you guys have done. It's been so amazing. We just have a couple of minutes left. I wonder, Pete, if you could just kind of brag on this guy a little bit, because we know he won't brag on himself. And I'm going to ask you at the end, what was your greatest moment as a Scoutmaster? But what would you say about Cliff if you had to summarize this guy?
Cliff has the patience of Job. As a parent myself, as a parent, you know how patient you have to be with your children, especially with your boys. So Cliff's patient with the boys, but I want to thank you personally for your patience with all the adults you've had to deal with over the years. Cliff mentioned how the boys are more capable than we might think of, but also I think that the boys are a lot easier to deal with sometimes than the adults. And I'm not talking about other adults, I'm just talking about myself, but the adults in general that we deal with on a daily basis. Cliff's dealt with probably every single parental situation you can deal with, every other thing. And I think everybody out there is probably nodding that, yeah, sometimes adults are harder to deal with than kids. And Cliff, I want to thank you for all your patience over the years dealing with adults. Myself included, for all the times I've screwed up or whatever, and anyone else. So he's had a lot of patience. He's done what I mentioned earlier. He's had the courage to let the boys make decisions when sometimes when you turn over the reins to a group of boys, it doesn't turn out like you thought. It's a lot of trust, but like he said, a lot of times the boys make better decisions than the adults. So that's the uniqueness of Cliff, and he's a legend. I know a lot of old timers will probably listen. They know Cliff's parents' gas station, and they've known Cliff because he's been around town forever. But most people that know Cliff through Scouts. And stop by our tent if you want to see Cliff. Then usually people come by, get food. Where's Cliff? And they want to sit down and reminisce. So he's the face of Troop 33, and thank you for that for all these years.
Yeah, at the end here it says, talking about Troop 33, the memories of camping in the woods, the sweet scent of wood smoke from a campfire, swirling about them as they laugh with their friends, cool, crisp nights, sun-drenched summer days, getting dirty. I like that part. Getting dirty, exploring things about them, sharing in work fun, and the wonders of growing up. I think that can't have any better organization than that. But what has been the high point for you, Cliff? You've been touched so many lives and had probably so many incidents where that's happened for you. Can you just give us one that really sticks out in your head?
I don't, it's hard to say.
Sure, I know it's a hard question. I tried to give you a little warm up there.
It's like a parent picking up their favorite child. But we did a trip to Europe, which was, I was going to retire after 10 years and join the Peace Corps and do some stuff in Africa. So I was going to do one big giant trip before we ended. And I took half a summer off and we just toured all over Europe.
Wow.
And that was that's where we saw the Vatican.
Okay.
So that was 40 years ago, right? Was that the 40th anniversary of that?
Yeah, this is the 40th anniversary of that.
So
But about 1/5 of the trip we were going to be spending in Greece, and they had a terrorist incident, and we couldn't go to Greece.
Oh, boy.
President Reagan was saying we shouldn't. I talked to the American embassy in Rome, and they said that here's the security level. We would recommend you not go. So I had to, always an adventure. I had to come up with some other things that we could do instead. And then we had another one in Milan we had to change, but that we just went to Florence a day early.
Wow.
But we couldn't see the Last Supper at the Santa Maria del Grazie. Everything was under lockdown because of terrorist threat. You couldn't see anything there.
So when you think, and always again, putting in perspective, in the middle of a planned out European trip across multiple countries, how many countries was it, Cliff?
I don't know, 12 or 13.
12 or 13
wow.
countries. Cliff's over there, the parents are here, no cell phones, no internet, nothing back in the day, having to make a contingency plan of now we can't go to a couple of the countries that we thought we were going to go to, and it's because of terrorists.
Right.
So today people would be freaking out. It would be all over Facebook. There would be an impossible thing. But there's Cliff and a group of boys and young men, and how many adults were along on the trip there?
Well, if you judge an adult by anyone 18 and over, we had some 18 and 19-year-olds among the group. I was 31. I had a 24-year-old who was one of my Eagles from before. And that was, it's hard to find an adult who's willing to take half a summer off
Right.
to do an activity.
Wow.
So we were able to put that together. And 1986 was the year I was planning to leave. That would have been my 10th. But I thought, let's do it 85. So if it doesn't work, we still got another summer to do it. But that was fun. But there's so many other things that, and some of the disaster relief efforts, and you see the people we're working with. There's so many stories.
Oh, I know. I wish we could get to them all, but unfortunately we can't. I used to reserve the term the man, the myth, the legend for Dee Palmer, the late great band director for DeKalb. But I think you certainly fit that category. We've been visiting with the legend, the man, the myth, the legend. That is Cliff Golden. And Cliff, before we say goodbye, I want to thank Ethan Davis, my nephew, for always helping us, and Pete Vanderblink for making this happen, Pete.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
What do you say to your kids? I know, always be prepared. We always say to the Boy Scouts, but what does Cliff Golden say to his Boy Scouts when you really want to get a message across and what's important in life? But do you have something that you always say to them, or is there one thing that...
I don't really say too much. I think it's better to try to show them.
All right.
And not just show what we're doing, but have them take a look at what they're doing. Because you can put them in a situation where they can make some great decisions. And sometimes I'll think, this is what you got to do, but I'll ask the boys. And then they'll come up with the same idea, and it's coming from them.
That's a great answer. That's it. Well, again, the man, the myth, the legend that is Cliff Golden. Thank you so much for your time this morning. We appreciate it.
Well,
And thank you, Cliff, for all the tireless work you've done on behalf of Boys for Generations.
What he said. I know. Wait, Cliff wanted to mention some stuff coming up real quick.
Cornfest is coming up. We have a date, September 13th. We're calling it Tri-Scouting Day. It's going to be at the Methodist Church in Sycamore from 9 a.m. to about 3 p.m. And if you're interested, if any boy that's interested in scouting wants to see what it's about, they'll be doing all kinds of activities there. It should be fun. Troop 4 is also turning 100 years old.
Yeah.
They have, the very next day, September 14th, they're having a program at the old shelter house at Hopkins Park, the one that overlooks the band shell. And that's basically going from 2 to 5 p.m. and they have a special ceremony at 3 p.m. We're going to do some kind of activity too, but we haven't decided yet.
All right.
So,
And we'll have you back when you do, as we
Yeah.
should.
and then we have on October 2nd, it's a Thursday, 6:30 p.m. At Verandas, we have the DeKalb County Tribute to Heroes. And we always try to recognize some heroes from DeKalb County every year. And this year,
Well, there's a misprint in that, I know, so.
we have 4 people that we think are just amazing people. Dorothy Stoddard, John Countryman, Steve Bigelow, and T.D. Ryan.
One of these things don't belong together.
So we're going to be honoring them, and people are invited to come. And hopefully we'll have more things going out about that, and so many things coming up. It's always exciting.
Well, Cliff, it's always an adventure, isn't it? That's
Yes,
for sure.
always an adventure.
Let's leave it at that. Always an adventure. And that's podcast number 22, TD Ryan Unleashed. TD Ryan Unleashed is brought to you by Scott Zyman, your State Farm insurance agent. Scott can help you save money bundling your home and auto insurance. Call 815-748-3101 or stop by at 2587 Sycamore Road, Suite D in DeKalb. Like a good neighbor, Scott Zyman and State Farm are there. Pizza Villa, pizza, pasta, sandwiches, and more at 824 West Lincoln Highway in DeKalb. For delivery or pickup, call 815-758-8116 or go to pizzavilla.com. My Insurance Guys in Sycamore, family owned, local, reliable. My Insurance Guys cover Medicare to auto and everything in between. Call us in Sycamore at 815-899-0950. My Insurance Guy, business, auto, home, life, and health at myinsuranceguy.com. And Eldercare Services of DeKalb County, safe, secure, and supported, helping you stay at home where you want to be. Call 815-758-6550 or stop in at 1701 East Lincoln Highway in DeKalb or on the web at ecsdekalb.org.